Shawne Merriman, this is really incredible because he's an athlete. He's also a businessman. And what he's doing is just incredible. Lights Out Extreme Fighting. I've seen this in South Florida. We've had it on TV here. Sun Sports, now it's Bally's, which is a different name now in South Florida. They changed, but still, you could see it. And I'll tell you what, not only are the fights really cool, but the commentary team is really good too. And you have to have that when you're doing any type of combat sports. It's just really important to have that. So, Shawne, thank you first for taking the time. Tell me about your endeavor, this whole promotion that you're involved with, that you started, you created. Tell me about it.
So, first off, I appreciate those things first because I'm all into production and talent. You talk about Blake Troop and Pablo, who I brought in there, Effie and Eduardo, who's on the Spanish side. And me coming from TV, man, that means a lot because I specifically obviously picked those guys out. But the truth is, man, I've been around this sport for 18 years, almost 19 now. When I went to if you want to look at 20, it's my first UFC fight I went to was Chuck Liddell and Randy Couture in 2005. That was the first one I went to. I remember walking in there, and it was a feeling that I had. I've been to plenty of boxing matches. I've been to other places, but I've never been to MMA. And so I walked in there, and I instantly knew, like I was at home. It's something I wanted to be around. So I started training with Randy Couture during the off season. Jay Glazer from Fox Sports, he introduced me to Randy Couture. So I started training with Randy during the off seasons, and then every off season, I got a chance to meet Chuck Liddell, Tito Ortiz. I was training with Tyron Woodley when he first came on in the mid to late 2000s. So I was in the gym with those guys during the off season, only because I wanted to get better using my hands, right? As an outside linebacker, being a better pass rusher, it just helped me be a better football player. So kind of fast forward, when you're in that space, you meet the gyms, the gym owners, the managers, the coaches. Before you know it, man, those are people you're hanging around with probably more than football, NFL. I was hanging around the fighters and the combat sports guys more than I was football because I felt more at home. I ended up launching Lights Out Extreme Fighting in 2019. This is my idea, man. This is what I wanted to do. I wanted to become a top feeder to the UFC. I wanted to create something to, be a top feeder, a top funnel, a farm league to the UFC. And I think we've done it. I think last year we sent 6 or 7 guys to the UFC from Lights Out Extreme Fighting. This year we'll probably do more. But I feel that being at who we are, a feeder, we can do a lot of things I believe the UFC can't because they're so big, right? It's hard for them to pivot. They got boards. They have, so many different layers that they have to go through, and we don't. I introduced tech. I put chips in the gloves. I partnered with a company called Shot Tracker, so now we can measure speed, power punch, G-force, velocity during the fight. That'll be available this year. And it will change how people really view combat sports and betting.
It's interesting too, because Shawne, did you ever consider fighting, or was your goal just to get better in football and use this? Because you mentioned that.
No, I actually was going to take a fight with Bellator around 2017. And I was in talks with Scott Coker and Mike, who's the president there, Kogan. And this is the problem. I was about 3 or 4 years ahead of my time, right? Because the money that I was asking for then, it was a lot to them. And now if you have a social media star, a YouTube guy, a former athlete getting into combat sports, it's nothing. They understand it now. It's a bare minimum. I was just ahead of my time. And so, yeah, I was definitely going to take a fight then. But I didn't because I'm still open to take one of Lights Out Extreme Fight now.
What also is interesting is when you look at promotions, obviously UFC you mentioned, and we have Bellator / PFL, but then it's who else? And that's the thing. So you're coming in and saying, look, I don't want to compete with UFC. I want to be sort of like a feeder program to UFC. Have you talked to Dana White? Have you talked to their people? What is any interaction between you all and them been like?
Yeah, I got a great relationship with Dana. And I don't call him too much unless I got something to offer too. That's my deal, right? I don't ask. If I call you, that means I got something good for you too. or something, an idea that I think would the UFC might want to adopt down the road. And that's the whole thing, man. We want to become an incubator, right? Adding tech and AI, all these really cool things to create our own fan base. We don't necessarily want to be the UFC. I know that obviously PFL has come out multiple times and said they're the co-leaders, right, of MMA. We don't want to be the co-leaders. We want to be an individual where we're creating things that's not there to make us different and separate us from the pack. We're not trying to compete. We're not trying to offer older fighters with bigger names, pay big contracts, right? And have two or three fights and then they're gone. We want to build our stars. We want to build these up and coming guys and get them ready. Get them ready for the UFC. Look, I went to the University of Maryland. I love Maryland to death. I'm a Terp through and through. I didn't want to stay at Maryland. I want to go to the NFL, right? And I think that all these guys have that same attitude. And I think by this time next year, if we at this rate that we're going, as you're saying, we're the most distributed regional promotion in the world. We have more distribution than anybody and more viewership than anybody. And I want to keep growing that, but I want to do it as a lights out brand, man, not as a co-leader of MMA.
How many events are you looking at running for 2025? And where are they based? I mean, is it California based and the fights are there? Are you looking to take it on the road?
Yeah, California mainly. We love Cali because there's so many gyms and fighters. So we love, LA, Riverside, San Diego, Long Beach, LA, NorCal. But this year we will be going to San Antonio. We will be going to Arizona, and if we can get one or two fights in Vegas or somewhere in Nevada, that would be cool too. I would love to have some fights up in Reno as well. It's a big fight town. So yeah, we will be in other states this year, but we're looking at least 12 to 14 fights this year.
Any thoughts down the road to South Florida? Look at all the fighters, American Top Team,
yes,
UFC, Masters MMA. That's just three of them, and those are three really good ones. Instead, the leader, American Top Team. What are your thoughts? Hey, what are your thoughts about? Have you ever come to South Florida to see any fights, been involved at all, anything like that?
Yeah, I've actually trained down there quite a bit too, so I know they got tons of fighters. We are talking to a few venues in Fort Lauderdale. Some in Miami that's 20 minutes from the airport, and so we got two venues that we are talking to. So if we can do two fights down there this year, it will be great. It'll obviously be more closer to fall and so forth.
Well, if you ever need any help with venues, at least what they're about, you let me know. I know all the venues down here, Shawne.
No, we do.
But I know the venues. Hey, Shawne, you mentioned University of Maryland. So right off the bat, I have to ask you, are you friends with AJ Francis and or Mojo Rawley?
I am, both of them. I just got off the phone 15 minutes ago with Mojo. And I just did a pay-per-view match with AJ in TNA Wrestling earlier this year. Last year now. So, look, that's still on the table too. I've been in talks with TNA Wrestling the last several months, and let's say this: it's a possibility that something happened there as well.
What are your thoughts of pro wrestling? Because obviously it's different from extreme fighting MMA, but it's still very physical. And you've been involved in it. You did some things with WWE. What are your thoughts of that? So many athletes seem to, if they don't want to get in the ring, they enjoy it.
I love it. And after training down there at the Performance Institute in Orlando, being around the guys, I've been in several workouts. They spent a lot of time with them training as well. I got a different. I always respected them, right? But I have a different level of respect because of what goes on to it. Also, too, their travel schedule. It's another thing that I love. I love the wrestling business. I really do. And I wouldn't knock me at least doing one or two pay-per-views before the year's out, at least with wrestling for sure.
And you mentioned TNA Wrestling, and right now, Shawne, they're hot. And the thing is, I'll tell you what, Shawne, this is something that's never happened. WWE is working with TNA Wrestling now. So you have them involved. That WWE has their brand called NXT,
yep,
which is based at the Performance Center, WWE Performance Center in Orlando. And now they're working together. And you said you're involved, you're getting involved, have been involved with TNA Wrestling. So just what are your thoughts of a combination like that?
First of all, I think at TNA is they're like the dark horse, man, because they actually, you know, country based, internationally based. They're massive, a lot bigger than people think. And I love working with the guys over there at Anthem. Good friend of mine, Carlos, just also went over there to kind of lead the team a little bit. Great guys to work with, and obviously, anytime you can pair up with the WWE at any capacity, it's just going to broaden your distribution and eyeballs. And Paul over there, you know, over at the WWE and all those guys, I still talk to them here and there. I think they've done an amazing job with TKO, partnering with the UFC and combining that company because it just benefits both. They created a mega monster. And like I said, man, I would not put it past anyone if I was to have a couple pay-per-views before the year's out.
And Shawne, what are your thoughts of this? Because I thought this could be something in the future where you actually had a weekend of pro wrestling and extreme fighting, MMA, the same weekend, the same area, the same venue, and then do it like that. I think more now MMA fans are warming up more to pro wrestling. I've always thought pro wrestling fans were into MMA, but I always thought that a while back MMA fans would be like, oh, that's that pro wrestling stuff. No. But I think they're warming up to it a little bit.
They are. You always needed somebody to bridge the gap. And that's why I said what TKO did was so brilliant. Because once you bridge that gap, you're automatically going to start getting some eyeballs and create some eyeballs that wasn't there on both sides. And so, like I said, we've been in talks doing more and more stuff. I think TNA is amazing. I love that group over there with Anthem and their all those guys. So you're right. Your head is in the right space, and let me tell you, you're not too far off.
Now you mentioned about AJ and working with AJ. So what was that like?
It was great, man, because people don't know AJ was a hell of a football player, and he can really go. And, you know, outside of him having the best damn choke slam as a big man in the business, I think he's an athlete. And one thing, he's great on the mic, man. He is awesome. He knows what he's doing. And, you know, we're looking to create some stuff down the road. But I wouldn't, like I said, I would not put it past anybody if I was to have a couple more pay-per-views before the year's out.
Now, Shawne, he is top dollar. Have you seen some of that top dollar too?
I've seen that top dollar. I'm all about the top dollar. He, you know, so I think he's making his way in the sport. He's created a lane for himself, and he has a hell of a fan base. You know, it was great getting in there and clotheslining Mr. Joe Hendry. You know, I think that we probably got some unfinished business. He didn't like that too much. And I'm not a believer. Just know that.
That is awesome. All right, Shawne, we're going to a couple more questions. We'll wrap it up. I'm curious. I want to go back to WWE a little bit because you were involved in WWE. You were part of a pre-show panel group with WrestleMania 30. And I was just thought, what are your memories of that and being what a big time, what a big stage, and to be a part of all that?
Yeah, it was one of the best moments I've had, you know, in entertainment ever. And I'm including that in me running out the tunnel of 70,000 people when I played in the NFL. I think to get involved with anything, you have to be a fan first. You have to be a fan of it. You know, I was a fan of football before I played in the NFL. I was a fan of wrestling before I got a chance to work with the WWE. I was a fan of combat sports before I launched Lights Out Xtreme Fighting. And I think your fan part of you keeps that passion, that love to do it, right? It doesn't feel like business to me. It feels like it's an extension of who I am, an extension of my personality, and something that gets me out of bed in the morning, man. Like when you retire from playing football, a lot you hear about these guys struggling, and the struggle is trying to find that next thing, that passion. And you know, I found it in this entertainment space, this combat sports space, where there's only room for it to grow. And everything you just said, without going deep diving and everything, I think is right on the head of some of the possibilities that are down the road.
You also, if I'm not mistaken, if I read correctly, you hit Chavo Guerrero Jr. with the Singapore cane.
I left a damn good mark too. And I told him, I said, listen, one thing you guys don't have to worry about me. I'm gonna swing for the fence. And I definitely did that. But just working with Chavo, and I think CM Punk was also a part of that show, and John Cena was also a part of that show. And you know, I got a chance to work and be around some of the best. And I want to challenge everybody. If I really dive into this business a little bit more, if something can be figured out, I want to challenge it and raise the bar. I think that I got some ideas and things I want to do, and also, I'm willing to go in and bang some heads. So
he's an NFL legend, and your career just incredible. What you guys do on the football field, what they do in the pro wrestling ring, in the cages, all of that. It's just incredible. And it's just great to see you parlaying some of that into the business side of it. I'm curious, Shawne, did University of Maryland help you prepare for the business side of it? Playing in the NFL help you prepare for the business side of it? What led to that transition?
Yeah, it was all of it. I grew up in Prince George's County, Maryland, about 20 minutes from the University of Maryland. That's who I am. I'm PG County to the fullest, but also going to University of Maryland and playing on the biggest stage. I never took playing in the NFL for granted because I was around playing on the biggest stage there is, at least in this country. But as we saw in the Super Bowl and the niggas came back, maybe the world, right? And so with that being said, I learned a lot in production. I learned a lot in branding. And so when you get a chance to see that on the very, very highest level, you take all of that knowledge and that experience and you start to put it into what I'm doing. And that's what I've been doing for the last decade, is really just grinding away. And they always say, I never knew what this meant a long time ago. They said it'd take 10 years to be an overnight success, right? That's where I'm at with it. I'm at that 10-year mark where I just been hammering this thing away. And the sky's the limit now. And I would tell everybody just to wait. Something's really, 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 really big is coming. And you alluded to some of it, but it's a little bit bigger than that. So I can't wait for it to be announced.
And Shawne, you also mentioned about being a fan. And I'm curious for you, who are the pro wrestlers and fighters that stood out for you?
On the pro wrestling side, it was always DJ. Always had a lot of respect for DJ and kind of just him electrifying the sport. And, doing that, I got a chance to be around. I was with Undertaker. I did this podcast a few months ago. He's probably up there, my second favorite up top, man. But I got a chance to be around and Hulk Hogan and Ultimate Warrior before he passed away, and John Cena, CM Punk. God, man, you name it, man. I got a chance. When I was training at the Performance Institute, man, I got a chance to spend a lot of time with Dusty Rhodes, Billy Gunn, Regal, JBL. So, I spent, all these guys can tell you, man, I'm a worker and, I love what I do and look to figure something out down the road.
And I'm curious, Shawne, what had happened? Because tell me if I got this wrong or right. Did you sign with WWE, then go to the WWE Performance Center in Orlando, spend some time there, and did you decide, okay, maybe this is not my route, or you had other things going on? What happened with all that?
Yeah, it was a couple of things. One thing, I've been a name rights owner to Lights Out since I was, since 2006. I built Lights Out not only to a persona and a brand, but also a company. So it's a little bit of trademark issues there, but also too, timing was bad. They had just launched a WWE network and it wasn't doing that well. And so at the time, if I'm not mistaken, they let go about 9 or 10% of the entire company. And so that it just fell by the wayside. It wasn't anything bad or personal at all. I saw Paul, Triple H at the ESPYs not too long ago, a couple of years back, and I walked up to him, man, and gave him a big hug. I gave him a great hug because I got so much respect for him and also, him really just taking over for Vince, man. That's some shoes to fill, and they're doing a hell of a job with it.
And it's interesting too, because you get someone, you mentioned The Rock before. So I'm wondering if Shawne's going to be in any Rock movies, but really what I want to say is this. You see a guy like Logan Paul parlay his social media and other success and bring that over and parlay that into pro wrestling. Just Shawne, we'll wrap it up with this part, but how do you feel about branding yourself, the social media, all that, and how these athletes, these fighters, everyone can build their own brand nowadays?
It's all about that, man. It's all about building your own brand. I think you become worth to another brand, right? Logan Paul built himself, and all these guys, they built themselves. And I think that the WWE is smart by realizing that they're getting somebody to bring in a following that they know what to do with. Because when it comes to entertainment, when it comes to building storylines. There's nobody bigger than the WWE that does it. So I think they were extremely smart by figuring it out with Logan Paul and a lot of those guys.
All right, Shawne, thank you so much for taking the time. NFL legend, what a hard hitter. You don't want to mess with this man. I'm telling you, and right now you don't want to mess with him either. He's doing the Lights Out Extreme Fighting, which is very cool. We can see it in South Florida, throughout Florida, on the networks here. It's just amazing. I watched it many times. What I like about it, too, is when it's on, Shawne, they show it several times. So if it's on in the day and you can't watch it, you can watch it at night, late at night, which is cool, too. And Bulletproof, he's a wrestler too. He's a pro wrestler too, Shawne.
Yes.
Him and man, your lead guy too. Just the English version. I hear the English version. Just really cool and things like that and all. And who knows? Maybe we'll see Shawne Merriman and Bulletproof in a tag team match someday.
Anything is possible with me, man. I'll tell you that. Anything is possible.
Thank you, Shawne.
You got it, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate that.